Hello everybody, welcome back to 10-Minute Reviews, where we try and review in 10 minutes or less-ish. Sometimes we will exceed that. Primarily focusing on books, authors, because that's our biggest passion. It's what we do. We read. We read for fun. We read for entertainment. We do read some of the great authors, the big books, but for the most part, we read for fun and entertainment, so that's what we review. We review the fun and entertaining books, not the high fiction, next great American novel type of books. We also like to review indie authors and lesser known authors, and go through a wide variety of genres, as some of you guys may have already noticed. So for today, I want to go back to the fantasy genre. You guys will notice that fantasy is one that my wife and I both share, so we read a lot of fantasy. Fantasy and sci-fi are kind of our biggest ones. Today, I want to talk about Brandon Sanderson. I won't call him an indie author. He's decently big. He's got a pretty good following. You find him in the bookstores and such, but he could be a lot bigger than he is. Brandon Sanderson is absolutely fantastic. Now, he's got a lot of different series and worlds that he has built. There was one superhero one that I read, a trilogy a while back, that I will review at some point. But what I want to talk about is his Mistborn series, because his Mistborn series is probably his best. It's definitely fantasy. It's for sure fantasy. I can't call it. Well, it starts out medieval adjacent, kind of. You know, you're in your swords and sorcery kind of things. But what he does with the magic, how he does magic, is way, way, way different. People they get their magic from metals. Those that can use magic, they get their magic from metals. How does the metals fuel their magic? Well, they have to eat it. They have to swallow the metals, and that fuels their power. And there's basically like a dozen subsets of powers. It was like six or seven, and you basically have one side or the other side. Like you have some that can push metal away from them. You have others that can pull metal towards them. Flip sides of the same power, different metals. And then you have some people that can do both, that are able to do two metals. And the first set of books kind of follows that theory, as they're trying to they're trying to defeat this evil empire and or this evil emperor, and the concept of a Mistborn, a legendary figure that has been in the past and is supposed to show up again, that is able to use all the metals and all the powers, including a couple that are unknown. They have not discovered the metals or have not figured out the metals or alloys that are necessary in order to use this power, or even what the power does. And then there's a whole nother race that has a different type of magic power. They also get their abilities from metals, but it's different powers, different abilities, and they don't have to eat the metals, they wear them. And that's the first book, the first trilogy, covers how the Mistborn eventually shows back up, where their powers come from, because that's pretty fascinating, the gods and such, where their powers come from, and this legendary prophesied hero. And who is this legendary prophesied hero? Because it could be a couple, there's a few different main characters that it could be. It's pretty obvious that it should be one of them, but it might not be. Then it might be. Then it might not be. Then it might be. Then it clearly is. Then it clearly isn't. And it's amazing. His first three books in the Mistborn series are absolutely fantastic. They're incredible. The second series is even better. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons, by the way, everybody, and comment down below or email us if you have any books you would like us to read and review, or just something you think I'd enjoy reading, or if you just want to chat about books. We'd love to just sit around and chat about books. Is what we do. Then he continues the Mistborn, but he does a little bit of a time jump, which I thought was pretty fascinating, because the first trilogy, boom, start, finish, end, done. Everything is wrapped up. There are no questions, nothing remaining. There are no plot lines, nothing to bring it forward. So I was a little confused and concerned when I saw that he was continuing with the series, but he does a jump forward. And when he does a time jump, It's not that long, only a couple hundred years, but it sort of goes from medieval adjacent to maybe 1800s-ish adjacent. Now you're starting to be introduced to guns, and electricity is starting to show up. and steam power, and even combustion is kind of hinted at. So things have taken a pretty big jump. The whole world has changed. You no longer have this empire, because emperor, all that was handled in the first trilogy. So you're in a new type of world, a new type of government, new type of technology. Those people with powers are a little bit better known. Some of the issues that have been in the first set of books no longer there because it was handled, but now there's some new issues. And now, with the advent of guns and things like that, we end up with and how some societies are kind of blended together. We end up with, again, a new world. The best way I could put it, instead of medieval adjacent, think more like Victorian England kind of thing. You've got your nobles and your fancy balls and your fancy gowns, but then you also have your frontier, which is kind of the old West-ish. It's a little bit dirtier, a little bit more run down, rougher, more dangerous. You're more likely to see guns and violence and things along those lines. And this book this series is kind of ongoing, and the next one comes out later this year. It's called the Wax and Wane series. I think there's been 3 so far, and once again, it deals with some people with some powers, but this time it's dealing with a noble-born that wants to be a cop. He's a noble-born that doesn't want to be a noble, doesn't want to have to run the house, doesn't belong in polite society. Spent years out on the frontier as a cop, as a bounty hunter kind of thing, and then finally, due to duty and obligations, comes back to the main city, and but still he can't leave his law enforcement ways behind. So he eventually joins the military, or joins the police force, not the military. Joins the police force, but kind of in a special capacity, because again, he's a noble. He outranks his boss in a way. He doesn't need the job, obviously. He can tell him to F off and go do his own thing anytime he wants. So he kind of goes by his own rules, but is smart enough to be constrained within limits. And his rougher, very odd partner, Wayne. Wayne is an absolute riot, by the way. He's probably one of my favorite characters about any book series. This guy is an absolute riot. Has his own unique set of powers. They both have their own powers. They're not Mistborn with all the powers out there. They're not, they're not a Mary Sue or anything like that. They have their limited powers, and it gets them in trouble sometimes. And then some of the other side characters. One has a very intriguing power that you wonder, how on earth can this power be useful? In fact, this power seems not only useless, but could actually get you in more danger if you had to use it, which kind of sucks. But kind of amusing, because it puts him in some fairly amusing situations. And in the Wax and Wane series, it's basically they're mystery novels in a way. They're just fantasy mystery novels with magic, but they're mystery novels. And of course, there's always the underlying plot that they start to introduce. Who is Wax's I think it's his uncle, who we thought was dead. Why are they kidnapping people with powers? And what is this conspiracy? But overall, for the most part, they're generally just kind of solving individual cases, individual mysteries, and the books are, like I said, fascinating. And the interplay between Wax and Wane is hilarious. And really, the interplay between Wane and anybody else in these books is absolutely hilarious. He is a colorful character, to say the least. So, yeah, guys, you guys got to check it out. Brandon Sanderson and the Mistborn series of books. They're absolutely fantastic fantasy books. So, thank you, everybody, for watching. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.